No other nation in all of ancient civilization has had a longer, unbroken imperial dynasty than Japan, the land of the rising sun. From the Paleolithic to the Tokugawa era, this is the entire history of ancient Japan. The first humans arrived on the Japanese islands more than 30,000 years ago during a period called the Paleolithic era. These early people were hunters and gatherers who lived in harmony with the land, made tools from stone and moved according to the seasons. But their lives were anything but easy. Daily they faced the elements, wild beasts, and sometimes even each other. Over time, around 14,000 BC, the Jomon period began. The people of this time are known for making some of the world's oldest pottery decorated with rope patterns. They lived in small settlements, hunted, fished, and gathered nuts and fruits. They created the first rudiments of organized life, albeit marked by the harsh realities of nature. Around 1000 BC, however, something amazing happened and a turning point occurred. From mainland Asia, a new group of people called the Yayoi arrived in Japan. They introduced rice production, which became the heart of Japanese life. With rice came permanent settlements, metal tools, and new ways of organizing society. Social classes also began to diverge. Some people became leaders, others worked the land. The Yao also brought weaving, pottery, bronze and iron tools that made life more efficient. At this time, influential families begin to form, setting the stage for future rulers as well as tribal warfare. By the 1st century AD, Japan was no longer just an island with scattered settlements. It was a network of over 100 small kingdoms and tribal alliances vying for territory and power. This time is known as the late Yayoi period. It is characterized by rice cultivation, metalworking, and population growth. All this led to increasing social complexity and frequent wars between tribes. But in the 3rd century AD, a dramatic turnaround occurred. According to the Chinese Book of Wei, a powerful ruler named Himiko came to head the kingdom of Yamatai. She is described as a shaman queen with spiritual power, capable of influencing not only humans, but the elements themselves. Himiko rises to the head of the Yamatai kingdom after a long and bloody period of tribal warfare. Her reign brought about a fragile peace, as through diplomacy and ritual, she united many neighboring clans under her rule. In 238, she sent a delegation to the Chinese kingdom of Wei, whereupon the Emperor of China recognized her as ruler of Japan, Japan's first documented diplomatic contact with the world across the sea. Himiko's life is shrouded in mystery. She lived in isolation, guarded by hundreds of servants, issuing orders through her priests. Her power was respected, but constantly threatened by ambitious chieftains and the instability of the age. After Himiko's death, chaos returned. Sources say that tribal conflicts broke out again until a girl named Toyo, who was only 13 years old, was chosen as her successor. With her determination and quick wits, she managed to restore order, showing how fragile and changeable power was in ancient Japan. Towards the end of the 3rd century, a new era began, the Kofun period. Its name comes from the giant keyhole-shaped tombs erected for the most powerful rulers. Some of them were bigger than football fields, majestic monuments to the new class of rulers. The most famous of these early rulers was of the Yamato clan, who claimed to be descended from the sun goddess Amaterasu. This idea of divine lineage gave them the right to rule and establish the first imperial dynasty, a line of emperors that still exists today. With Yamato began the true unification of the islands and the first attempt to build a state out of the fragmented network of tribes. As Japan grew, it began to borrow ideas from neighboring China and Korea. Around the 5th century, the Japanese adopted the Chinese writing system, which allowed them to record their history and laws. But the most profound cultural upheaval came in 552, when Buddhism arrived from China and Korea. This changed Japanese religion and culture forever. Temples were erected, new styles in sculpture, architecture, and painting emerged, and Buddhist ideas mixed with local Shinto beliefs. The emperor and his court consolidate their power, ruling from the capital, Nara, a city of splendid temples, palaces, and orderly bureaucracy. The Nara period, from 710 to 794, was a time of centralization. Emperors tried to control the country directly, But powerful families like the Fujiwara soon began to take power. They acted as regents, making decisions for the emperor and running the government behind the scenes. In 794, the capital moved to Heian-kyo, now called Kyoto, beginning the Heian period. This era is remembered as the golden age of art and literature. The court was known for its beauty, poetry, and rituals. One of the world's first novels, The Tale of Genji, was written by a noblewoman named Murasaki Shikibu at this time, and gives us a glimpse of the elegant but complicated lives of the aristocrats. However, while the nobles of Kyoto were writing poetry and painting, the rest of Japan was changing. The local warriors, called samurai, were becoming more powerful. They served the local rulers, known as daimyo, and followed a strict code of honor called bushido. They practiced martial arts, wore armor, and fought with swords and bows. As the central government weakened, these warriors began to fight for control, leading to a period of civil war. The first major war to rock Japan was the Genpei War. Two powerful clans, the Taira and the Minamoto, clash in a struggle that decides the future of the nation. The Minamoto clan, led by Minamoto no Yoritomo, won the war, and in 1292, Yoritomo became the first shogun. The shogun is a military ruler who has real power, while the emperor is more of a figurehead. This marks the beginning of the shogunate Kamakura, a new system in which samurai ruled Japan. Zen Buddhism became popular among the samurai during this period. Zen teaches discipline, meditation, and simplicity, which fit well into the samurai way of life. Temples and gardens were built, and new art forms, such as ink painting and rock gardens, emerged. At the same time, ordinary people, farmers, artisans, and merchants continued to work hard, growing rice, producing goods, and supporting the warrior class. Some warriors remained in legend, such as Saito Musashibo Benkei, who became known for their strength and loyalty. But the peace did not last long, and in the late 13th century, the Kamakura shogunate faced its greatest test: the Mongol invasions led by Kublai Khan, ruler of the powerful Yuan dynasty. After conquering Korea and turning it into a vassal state, Kublai Khan demands that Japan submit to Mongol rule. The Kamakura shogunate refused, ignoring repeated diplomatic missions. Sensing that he was being opposed, Kublai Khan prepared for war. The first invasion was in 1274, known as the Bunai War. On October 5th, a Mongol fleet of about 900 ships and 40,000 soldiers, composed of Mongols, Chinese, and Koreans, appeared off Tsushima Island, then attacked Iki Island and reached Hakata Bay in northern Kyushu. The Japanese defenders, some 10,000 samurai, faced a new and terrifying tactic. The Mongols fought in tightly organized formations, using explosive bombs and firing iron balls and arrows in volleys. The samurai, accustomed to individual combat, find themselves unprepared for these group tactics and numerical superiority. Still, the Japanese fight with desperate fury. Then, just as the Mongols were about to make their decisive blow, a sudden and violent storm broke. Many Mongol ships were wrecked, and the invaders withdrew. Later, this storm was called the kamikaze, or divine wind, and many people in Japan believed it was a sign that the gods were protecting their land. The Mongols retreated, but the danger was far from over. Kublai Khan did not hesitate. He sent more embassies demanding Japan's surrender, but the shogunate refused. Expecting another attack, the Japanese built massive stone fortifications stretching some 20 kilometers along the coastline of Hakata Bay and improved their defenses. The samurai began to adapt their weapons and tactics, switching from long swords to shorter ones with sturdy blades and spears that were better suited to fighting massed troops. The second invasion came in 1281 and was called the Koan War. This time the Mongols gathered an even larger force, about 140,000 soldiers and 4,000 to 5,000 ships, the largest naval invasion in history up to that point. The fleet, made up of Mongols, Chinese, and Koreans, again attacked the islands of Tsushima and Iki, then headed for Hakata Bay. The Japanese, now better prepared and fortified, fight desperately to hold off the enemy. For weeks, fierce fighting was waged on land and sea. The Mongols struggled to break through the Japanese defenses. Then, in July, another strong typhoon came. the storm devastated the Mongol fleet, sinking thousands of ships and drowning tens of thousands of soldiers. The survivors are hunted down by the samurai and liquidated or captured. Once again, the Japanese attribute their salvation to kamikaze, believing their islands are protected by divine forces. These invasions had a huge impact on Japan. The reputation of the samurai rose, and the belief in Japan's sacred protection became deeply ingrained in the culture. But the cost was high. The shogunate's finances were strained by building defenses and rewarding warriors, and many samurai received little or nothing for their service, leading to unrest and weakening the government. The Mongol invasions, though ultimately unsuccessful, marked a turning point. They demonstrated both the resilience of Japan and the vulnerability of the Kamakura shogunate, which would decline in the decades to come. After the fall of the Kamakura shogunate in 1333, Japan entered the Muromachi period. The Ashikaga family became shogun, but their control was weak. The local rulers fought constant battles, which brought Japan into the Sengoku period, or Warring States, a century of chaos and bloodshed. This was the age of the warlords, a period that saw the rise of famous samurai leaders such as Oda Nobunaga, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, and Tokugawa Ieyasu. These men were brilliant strategists who used new weapons, some purchased from Portuguese merchants, to defeat their rivals and unify Japan. Oda Nobunaga was ruthless and innovative, breaking the power of Buddhist warrior monks and using firearms in battles. After his death, Toyotomi Hideyoshi assumed power, completing the unification of Japan and even launching invasions of Korea. Although these invasions failed, Hideyoshi's rule brought peace and order. He also established strict social rules, separating samurai from farmers and merchants, and ensuring that only samurai could carry swords. After his death, however, Tokugawa became shogun in 1603. He founded the Tokugawa shogunate, which ruled Japan for more than 250 years. The Tokugawa era was a time of peace, stability, and isolation. The shoguns closed Japan to most foreigners, banned Christianity, and controlled trade. Samurai became bureaucrats, and the arts flourished. Kabuki theater, haiku poetry, and woodblock prints depicting everyday scenes, landscapes, and famous actors became popular. Meanwhile, during all these changes, the emperor remained an important symbol. Even when the shoguns and samurai had real power, the imperial family was respected as the spiritual heart of Japan. Empresses also played their part, such as Empress Suiko, who supported Buddhism, and Empress Jingu, a legendary figure who is said to have led invasions of Korea. By the mid-19th century, the Tokugawa shogunate began to weaken. Foreign ships began to arrive seeking trade and contacts. This eventually led to the end of the samurai era and the beginning of modern Japan. But that's a whole different story to be told another time. If you enjoyed this documentary, let's go back in time to ancient Egypt again by clicking on the video to the left of the screen. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more fascinating stories from around the world.